remote participation. Quite a few interesting and good things to announce. The playground grand opening ribbon cutting is tomorrow at the Page School. So a lot of effort and dollars and man hours put into revitalizing the playground and making it accessible for all town residents. So it's a great thing, and that'll be tomorrow at 5 p.m. There'll be a board meeting to review the the plans for the Mill Pond All Access Trail that will be on Monday, July 18th.
Do we have a time for that?
I don't know.
Do you think 7, Jim? There wasn't anything. Okay. TBD.
We'll find. Yeah. But if you want to find out about that, we'll definitely get it on the website today or tomorrow or the next day. The bandstand concert schedule continues on Thursday evenings through August 25th, and always at 6:30 right out here at the bandstand. I'm good at the moment. Yeah. As usual, we're looking for filling open positions on boards and committees. Go to www.westnewbury.org, volunteer to see what is available. Another good event is that the Merrimack Valley Regional Transportation has now put a bus route that is going to cross the Merrimack come over from Haverhill and go into Groveland. So it hasn't got to here. We'll maybe someday we'll work on that, but this certainly makes it closer for people. So if you can somehow get to Groveland, you could get to the take the bus from there. Jim is our rep to that, so he could add a little bit to that.
So right now, because of ARPA funds, the MVRTA was able to allow for free public transit in the entire region. So if you don't have a fixed route bus that goes near you, you can do the ring and ride, which is available to all Newbury residents, West Newbury residents, rather. And so you can call, I believe, Christine's going to be putting out in the senior center flyer, but we also put out news and announcements with it. So if you can get a ring and ride to Groveland, or you can get a ring and ride to Haverhill, you can then connect to the system or to Newburyport. You can get any fixed route system from there. So it's free for all residents.
So do you think this will actually help people additionally, or?
Yeah, so with it now being available for everyone for free, if the ring and ride is increased, the service that West Newbury needed. So the whole reason why Groveland justified it was because Groveland has a high ring and ride usage. They had the highest in the entire region. And so if West Newbury increases our ring and ride usage, then you could say, hey, now we need sort of to go through West Newbury.
Okay, so that's all good. Okay, our first item is a first item is a proposal to make West Newbury a Purple Heart community, and I think it certainly seems like something that we could totally get on board with. So with the two of you, Bob and Karen, would you like to speak to it?
I thought about it when this town of Newbury had done it, and they were a Purple Hat community. And once they did, I thought that was a very good idea for the town of West Newbury. I know of at least one Purple Hat recipient in town. I don't know how many others in town. There's about 75 or 80 veterans that live here. And I think we should probably, it would be a good way to honor pretty much all of those that serve, but particularly those that were either killed in action or wounded. Because that's what the Purple Hat is for. It's for those that were either killed in action or wounded in action. But I think it should also, we should remember all of them. But I wanted to do it at least for the wounded and the deceased. And at this point, we're just talking to Karen for the meeting. We're going to try to have a presentation done on August 7th, which is the National Purple Hat Day. It's when it was reenacted again. And we're hoping to have probably Wendy Mira speak. We'd like to keep it short, but you know, to the point.
Where would that be, Bob?
It's a Legion. I think that's what it should be.
So one date says August 6th, and then the proclamation says August 7th. It is August 7th.
We could try for August 7th because
Okay.
that's a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's probably the least impact on everybody, and that's the date
That it was
that was
started. Yeah.
started. So
Yeah. Okay.
we'd like to try to shoot for that date.
Mm-hmm. So do we want to accept the language of the proclamation? I didn't have any edits.
I certainly thought it was fine.
Good. Yeah, I would move to accept the proclamation as worded.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 So why don't we? I think we should read it. What do you think?
Sure.
Okay. And it would be just the Purple Heart is correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's like the oldest decoration in
The oldest military decoration
in the United States. Is that correct? Yes.
Started in 1776.
Whereas the people of West Newbury, Mass. Have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the citizens of our community who have selflessly served in the armed forces, that has been vital in maintaining the freedom. And whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily sacrifice of being wounded by the hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and is created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart with the word merit sewn on it, on August 7, 1782, in Newburgh, New York, by General George Washington, then reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22nd, 1932, by General Douglas MacArthur. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart. And whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day, and now therefore be it proclaimed that we, the West Newbury Selectboard, hereby proclaim West Newbury, Massachusetts, a Purple Heart community, honoring the service and sacrifice of those from our community who were awarded the Purple Heart while serving in our nation's war. And also be it proclaimed that West Newbury, Massachusetts will recognize August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day and urge our citizens and organizations to display the American flag, as well as public expressions of recognition and appreciation of our Purple Heart recipients. Thank you.
Just so everyone knows, Bob had approached my office about looking into whether this could be done. And Rebecca did all the yeoman's work of getting us the proclamation and language, and we sent it to Bob.
She did, that's what I came from,
Yeah.
she did.
And so
Bob, you whipped that off, I know you did.
I'm not that good.
and so we went through that process. We spoke with Karen. She's actually ordered us the signs because it was quite a lead time on them. So we figured we'd try to get ahead of it a little bit. So we'll make sure we have them by August 7th. And we have 3 that we've ordered, correct?
Yeah.
So we'll put them at the entrances of the town, mainly the main streets. And then we have a choice of whether we want to do South Street or hope that the bridge opens and we can put it at the bridge.
And just one other thing is the American Legion still has money in their account, so I would take money out, I would pay for the signs from the Legion, so the town will, the Legion will pay for the signs.
We have the Department of Corrections, and it's, the UV, anti-graffiti, the real deal.
All right, so we have this for you guys to sign. Nice seal.
Awesome.
We have
Do we
a
have
color
to do anything
printer.
special if it's being gifted? Do we, is there anything we need to do to acknowledge the signs or the value of the signs? So you're technically, I guess, you'll be gifting the signs to the town as opposed to the.
I don't know if you want to call it gifting or paying the bill, but
Well, no, it's just that it's coming from something other than a town account, so we somehow probably.
We can, no, but you can make a motion and we can just accept it. Yes.
So it would actually be coming out of the
So
veteran.
you would give it to each.
I would give
Yeah.
it, the veterans, I seem to be the chief of the bottle washer there, right? So I'll take the money out and we'll take care of it for
Okay.
the
And then,
Legion itself.
okay, and then, so that's because we contribute to the Essex County Veterans, then that's probably a smoother transition than money from the local, just because there actually is a sort of a financial transaction somehow. I think we have to account for that. I'm sure it's not that difficult, but I just wanted to acknowledge that somehow.
Yeah, so
We do it as a donation.
I was gonna say,
We can just vote to accept.
if it's a donation to the Eastern Essex Veterans District,
Okay.
there wouldn't be any transaction between the town and them, so this is.
So should I make a motion?
No, I don't think you're, Bob is saying it's coming from the American Legion account.
So it'd be a donation to the agency
Well,
as opposed to us.
Correct.
So the agency should vote to accept the gift, not us.
I see. Okay.
Great, well, thank you for pulling this together.
Yeah.
That's great.
Bob was the spark on the idea, so we just did the work.
Well, both are critical.
Yeah, I've seen those signs. They're actually pretty attractive signs. I've seen them going in other communities. Never really knew what it took to get them.
Yeah.
And so we'll be added to the National Registry of Purple Heart Communities. We're actually still then in the top 50% of communities in Massachusetts. So not yet 50% of communities in Massachusetts have accepted being a Purple Heart community. So we're in the top 50%.
But Bob, it would be interesting to know how many Purple Heart recipients there are or have been in town.
I don't know.
I don't know how you could find out.
So I'm going to be getting Karen a list of veterans in town. I pull the extract, anything.
Okay, so that.
And so she's able to pull veterans records, I believe.
So it would be on their DD 214s, but you would have to go into each person's DD 214.
Individual, yeah.
And so what I think would probably be the best way of doing it is saying if you're a Purple Heart recipient, rather than just grabbing people without them knowing and everything, that if they want to identify themselves, Because some people do, some people don't. So I like to keep it with whatever they feel comfortable with. Because also the other thing is that, I mean, I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time, but I was thinking that we could do an insert into the letter that we're sending to the veterans anyway, saying, you know, we're going to have the ceremony, you know, this date and time. And so just do that as an insert so we can, you know, double whammy, send a letter that there's an opening on the board, and then let people know that there's, that we're having the ceremony. Great.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Bob.
All right, thank you.
Don't get old.
That was the chair squeaking, Bob, not you.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item is a request to display a banner about the from the Gardner Crisis Center related to the annual Walk Against Violence, and so there's a request to put a banner up in the month of September.
There's no size restrictions in the bylaw, in the policy.
In the policy, it doesn't appear to be.
Okay.
The request was to put it on the at the training field, and we sort of don't want to do that. But the other area mentioned was by the right away by the Page School, which would be sort of seems to be.
Jim, do you know if that's on the Page School side or the Pike State side?
Within the Route 113 right of way near Page School, it doesn't specify it, unfortunately.
Angus spoke with her, so I don't know for sure where it is.
Oh, Angus spoke with her?
Yeah.
Okay. So, any thoughts? It's for a temporary sign. It seems to me in the past that also putting a banner across over 113 is the state isn't too thrilled about that as a state road.
Wayne's on.
Oh, Wayne, do you know anything about that?
Hold on, I'm just on mute myself. So they want to hang a banner over the state road. They would have to get a state permit for that. We would have nothing to do with that.
I don't think that's what they're asking.
Yeah.
It did say something about hanging a banner,
It's a
but
display or single 3x8 banner within the room.
but it said it also had hung it over by the library, and we don't. We're not going there yet.
Right. She sent the request to the select board email, and I explained to her about the policy and that.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
this is their backup.
Okay. By Page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that would actually be on the Page side as opposed to on the Pike State Hill side.
Well, we don't know.
It says near
Well,
the
it
page.
says near Page, so yeah, I guess.
But we can say what we want. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Okay.
Seemed like there'd be better visibility on the Pike State side, which is where the high school student signs are, but I mean, I don't have a preference.
So the high school student signs that were actually on the entrance road.
they're on the road, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
but you could have it right, you know.
By the front.
Yeah.
Okay. So, although, you know, I haven't looked at it recently, I know that, you've been working on that demonstration garden that's on the,
On the other side.
on the west
Yeah.
side
Yeah.
of that. So you're thinking on the east side, sort of,
I just-
bias towards where the,
Near the generator. I think
Yeah.
there's better visibility there, but if they want to have it on the Page side, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I would say we'll leave it up to them, but not as Rick said on the if they've started the work by the.
Yeah, probably not on the west.
Not on the west side of the entrance into the pipe safe. So.
All right, so I move to approve the placement of.
Okay, no, go ahead and I'll comment now.
Okay, of a 3x8 banner within the Route 113 right of way near Page School from September 5th, 2022 through October 3rd, 2022.
So that's exactly 28 days. Two. Okay, good. Second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, Wayne, would you mind sort of being the person who makes sure this gets done in a way that is reasonable, you know, so it doesn't. Yeah, so just so it doesn't conflict with any other town-related stuff.
Sure. I mean, if Jim wanted to pass me all the information, I could find out how they're gonna display the banner. I assume it on the edge of the road, mounted to something, but not over the highway, obviously.
Yeah. So, and then we kind of left the door open where it could be either on the Page School side or on the Pipe Stave Hill side, on the eastern side of the entry, the Pipe Stave entry road, you know, sort of near the, on the same side that the generator is on.
That's not a problem. I would just be concerned that they just make sure it's not too close to the intersection. So I'll meet them out there to make sure they're not obstructing view from people coming out of the pipe stave. We already got complaints already. We don't need to add another one by putting a sign up.
Right,
too close.
Right. Great. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. No problem.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would, how about, do we have any of the people for the affordable housing?
Yep.
Pam is
Pam
here.
Schaefer.
Mitchell is here.
Oh, right, okay. So our next item is applicants to serve on the Affordable Housing Trust. This is a new position in the town. This will be a very, I think, interesting position for people to be in, to really have some creative ideas about affordable housing in the town, make some decisions to move that process forward. So we have five present applicants, and Wendy, were we going to do 7 people, or was it going to be 5?
We need 6, and there's 1 select board member.
Okay.
So Jim, you reached out to everybody that was on the.
Yeah, I actually spoke with
committee?
every single person.
And people that applied to be on the bylaw committee?
Yep.
Okay.
And so this, the group of people that have applied were either applicants or in a couple of cases, brand new and interested in serving. The people who withdrew, essentially everyone who had applied for the bylaw committee either withdrew their name or said they weren't interested in doing it at all.
Okay.
There were several people who said time commitment is the major issue.
Yeah.
I can cite 4 or 5 that just said at this time, if it had been back then, I could have, but because it's now, I just don't have the time.
Okay.
In fact, the select board got one of those.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Well, so that's this was 5 out of 6 members. We'll need 1 additional member, and it's great.
So Pam, on your application, you didn't say what your experience or interest is. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, when I first moved here, let's see, we moved here in 1983, and I honestly don't remember the year that I joined the Housing Authority, but back then they did have a housing authority here in town. And I was on the board and helped to bring to fruition the affordable housing that's on Bachelor Street, and also the senior housing that's right there near Town Hall. So that's really all the experience I have. It's not my profession. I don't, have any education in it, but I just thought I would help to bring some perspective, my own perspective, to issues with the housing, affordable housing here in town.
Great.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Yeah, well, both of those are important accomplishments, so that's good.
And then we have Deb.
Yep.
Derek.
I'm Deb Hamilton. I've been in West Newbury since 1975 when I built my house here, and I was at that time a teacher at Kentucky. I then was a realtor for 40 years and sold some of these properties, probably 800 houses over my career. And in my retirement now, I feel that there is a compelling need to create housing for our children, for our employees, for our seniors who may have a house to sell, but there's nothing that they can afford to live in. When we lose people like Mary Harada and Joe Anderson because there's nothing here for them, it says that we need to do something about that. And I would like to continue, having been on the bylaw committee that created the trust. I think I have some expertise to offer in my career, from my career. I would love to serve with Pam and the other people.
Hi, Deb.
I do. And I'd like to hear who the other people are, and I hope that we can fill the whole slate. Wendy, do you know if you're going to be the select person? Have you not decided?
We have not decided.
Okay. But I feel like it's given me a purpose in my retirement if I can do something like this for the community and the people who currently live here and who want to live here. Thank you.
And I think Deb being on the planning board is a good connection as well.
Official.
So Deb, just kind of answering this, so so everyone's aware, the other people who have applied. Go to the start. So there's Kevin Bowe, Donna Garcia, Deb Hamilton, of course, Derek Mitchell, and Pamela Schaefer, of course. Those are the 5 people who.
Just briefly, I did speak with Kevin Bowe and Donna.
Okay.
Kevin was unable to make it tonight.
Okay.
But he expressed his enthusiasm for serving on the board as he has in the past.
Correct.
And Donna is actually new to town. She was unable to make it tonight. However, she has quite an experience dealing with housing in her career.
30 years working in the affordable housing.
Yeah, so impressed.
Yeah.
Who is that? Donna Garcia?
Stewart Street.
Former Habitat for Humanity CEO. Yeah. She's quite the experience.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a good broad range of perspective. Would be good.
Derek's here. Right.
Oh, you're Derek. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
This is my daughter. This is our first introduction to.
Hi.
Yeah. Nice to meet you guys. We're relatively new to town. We've been here for just about 3 years, most of that during the pandemic. So still use GPS to get there sometimes. You want to sit with me there? This is my advisor. Our experience is varied. I've worked in and run a variety of nonprofits that certainly intersect with housing needs, whether it's with youth or newly arrived refugees. My wife and I manage a small real estate portfolio across Lowell and Lawrence and do some small scale development as well. And I intersect with kind of statewide policy work that has some relevance here as well. And so I wouldn't count myself as an expert, but I think I've encountered housing from a variety of different angles, and I just believe it's the structural issue that we need to figure out, not just here in West Newbury, but across the region, and like to contribute how I can here locally. So want to get involved.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and my advisor lives in a home and has a small egg business down Bachelor Street, and so she's saving up so she can contribute to the cause too.
Awesome.
But thanks for having us.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Great. So it's great to see somebody who's new in town wanting to get involved. So it's really cool.
And incidentally, my neighbor runs the Gloucester Housing Authority. I don't know if I should see if he's interested. If we need a sixth, I can reach out to him.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we need one more.
Okay.
One more member.
Okay.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'd make a motion, or
No, go for it.
okay, make a motion to appoint Kevin Bowe, Donna Garcia, Deborah Hamilton, Derek Mitchell, and Pamela Schaefer to the new Affordable Housing Trust with terms. What's our terms going to be?
Do you want me to just do it? Or do you, it's supposed to be 3 2 years and 3 1 years.
3 2 years, 3 1 years. Okay.
So up to the discretion of the board on who and how.
We don't have to decide tonight, do we? I mean,
Yeah.
The trust can't even meet until we get approval from them. I guess we could meet, but
You could meet.
yeah,
You couldn't do
just
anything.
can't do any business.
But if you wanted to discuss future plans,
Yeah.
like absolutely,
Yeah.
interest in the committee and things like that is absolutely appropriate. It's just
Well,
there's no
you would
decision.
have a quorum.
Mhm.
So of the 3 people present who are being appointed to the board, is there anybody who would prefer to be, because they're going to be half the members initially are going to be 2-year terms and half are going to be 1-year terms. Is there anybody who initially would prefer to be a 1-year term?
And that doesn't mean you can't be reappointed after.
I'm sorry, Pam, I couldn't hear that. Sorry.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
My dog is getting ready to bark, sorry. I can be one of the 1-year terms, but that being said, I would probably want to stay longer, but I just want to go, a year at a time.
Yeah, well, so just so you know, so the reason why I was asking that first is I thought that the 3 people who were here in person tonight should sort of be awarded with the 2-year terms unless they prefer not.
Okay, 2 years is fine too. That's fine. What about you, Deb? What are you going to do?
I'm going to do 2 years, but I believe that the people who are serving 1 year then would have the option to serve.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially it would turnover at that point would be
Tough.
counterproductive.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just part of the way that the state wants things to work. Yeah.
Okay.
Total loss of knowledge in a year.
Yeah.
Great. So
I would agree with your
okay.
thinking.
So friendly amendment to Wendy's motion is that then Pamela Schaefer and Derek Mitchell and Deb Hamilton would be 2-year terms, and Kevin Bowe and I'm sorry,
Donna Garcia.
Donna Garcia would be 1-year terms, of course, up for reappointment at the beginning of the next fiscal year of FY24.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Great.
Now get to work.
Can't wait. Really.
Just so everybody knows, I will email out all of you with your official term and kind of conflict of interest, open meeting law, and other acknowledgements you'll all need to fill out. Deb, you've done a million of them. So you guys will get those, and then I just need you to come in person. That's where you're in.
Okay.
Great.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam.
All right. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Bye. I'd make I'd like to request that we move up E so that we can delay item D and move up so we can talk to our new interns quicker.
Great.
Okay with that?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our two interns, Daniel McNamara and Kevin Stacy, thank you for coming in.
No poison ivy, that's good.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Really?
Yeah, we're playing so far.
Yeah.
So I'm Dan McNamara. I'm a senior going to UMass Amherst studying environmental science. And I'm Kevin Stacy. I'm a senior at Mass Maritime Academy studying environmental science as well. So what we've been doing really for the past 4 weeks, going into our 5th week, yes, is mapping out different invasive plants on town-owned property around town. Like most recently today, we're up at Bright Hill, and we've done a lot, or I guess all of the Mill Pond and Pipe Stave recreation areas, and just kind of creating data points all across these different town-owned properties and eventually creating some sort of GIS layer for the town to use, and even suggest different management strategies within specific areas, and kind of what we learned and what we could maybe do better about specific areas, and kind of just looking what areas are manageable and what areas are almost like overflowing with invasives. But yeah.
So is most of the work been mapping so far? I mean, have you done actually invasive removal?
We've done some invasive removal depending on how much of a specific plant there are. There is specifically, if we come across patches of, let's say, like black swallowwort, we'll remove that because they release toxins that are dangerous to other plants in the area. So we've removed small patches of that, but then we come across bigger areas that we can't really do ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we have to leave that alone. If we come across like 1 or 2 small plants, we'll pull them out, put them in our bags, and take them to a nearby disposal area.
Have you found, I actually am one of the people on the listing, you know, I get your listings daily, although I haven't been verifying, I've been sort of scanning through them, and I think I can recall a couple of 3 listings, black swallowwort in particular, but maybe there's more than that.
We really, surprisingly, haven't seen a lot of it. I know in kind of I believe it was the lower field at the Mill Pond area, the trail walking down towards Mill Pond. It was a larger patch there, and really across the properties, we haven't seen a lot of it, which is really haven't seen much of it at all, which is really good. It's definitely one of the least common invasives that we've seen so far.
So what is the most common?
Bittersweet, definitely bittersweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that you'd have to do like it's everywhere. So.
Yeah, and a lot of buckthorn, I would say, and multiflora. But I would say those 3 definitely by far bittersweet though.
Yeah.
I think we need to find an insect that feeds on bittersweet, and that's our only hope.
Well, that insect will be that'll be the size of Godzilla.
It'd be big enough. It'd be bigger than the town itself.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with somebody who's been involved with, has sort of been running a project here on Knotweed, yeah, at Jack Duggan, and he was, you know, I know Michelle's not here right now, so, and you know, I know you're sort of reporting to, you know, Michelle's essentially a supervisor, but I'm curious if there's been any discussion of trying to corroborate the information that Jack has put together regarding knotweed locations around town. Has that been part of the discussion at all?
A little bit, at least from what we found so far, knotweed is mostly common near roadsides and developed areas.
Yeah.
As it was like planted there for aesthetics reasons, like along highways and whatnot. So it's, for example, along the access road into the main Mill Pond parking lot, or right next, like up in the entrance to Pipe Stave, it's right there. But we saw his work regarding like putting plastic down to cover it so that way it can't grow up, and examples like that. But otherwise, it hasn't been, at least at this stage, we haven't discussed it too much further beyond hearing about what he's been doing.
Okay, and you've been focusing really on town-owned properties along, as opposed to along roadside. So would that sort of conflict if you're trying to complement? And I know you've already got a full plate, so I'm just throwing this out. And I wish Michelle was in the conversation. Maybe I'll ask her too. But is it? Do you see any way that what you're doing can complement what he's been doing, trying to map knotweed locations in town?
I would say really kind of like what he's throwing off of. A lot of the knotweed is really just roadside. Like when we're in like Break Hill or Indian Hill, really in the fields, off of the main roads, there's really, you don't really see it in the woods or anything. So I would say I definitely have to, we would have to kind of work with Michelle to see kind of how that would be approachable, I guess.
Yeah.
On like roadsides like that. I'm not sure, honestly, like how we could incorporate that.
Yeah, okay. All right, no, and that's fair. It may not, there just may not be a fit there. Jack told me about it, and I may just suggest that we give Michelle a ring and see if, you know, if there's any.
You could just see an additional layer perhaps to the map. You know.
And that's what Jack was thinking. I mean, he was, you know, thinking about mapping what he has. You know, he needs to get back out and sort of confirm previous locations, look for new locations. But you know, there's already a couple of 300, I think, that he's identified around town. So I don't mean to drag the conversation too far that way. So I'll just, you know, I'll suggest that Jack did talk to Michelle and see if there's a way to you know, for complementary effort there. But I know you guys have your hands full already. There's no shortage of material out there to work with.
Yeah, we've been making good progress, but there definitely is a good amount of height to go. Like someone mentioned to us before how many, I forget the number, but it was a large like acreage land, just hiking trails this and down. So
yeah.
Have you been to Riverbend yet?
No, I think we're actually gonna end up there this week.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Carol showed us that might have been last week for the first time, just walking through it, just to get us like comfortable with it. And it's not as big as other areas, but it's definitely parts that are definitely very thick with invasives.
Yeah. So the I'm not sure what it's being referred to. The you know, the sometimes called the upper field up above Mill Pond. There's probably the largest field other than the Dunn field, the largest field. You know, the field that runs from that path that goes up from Mill Pond, across the field, and then over to the sports fields. You know, the large field is probably close to 20 acres, I would guess. That large field. Yeah. Have you done the perimeter of that field? Yes, we have it. That was, like you said, that probably took us the longest, but just because the pure size of it.
The horse flies made us feel very humble.
Yeah. But it's definitely just on the edges, which is a good thing. We walk through the middle as well, and as far as you can see, walking the trail, there's nothing in the middle. You can walk on the border, but the edge of that definitely was kind of like a wide range of invasives, kind of, I would say almost like covering the whole border or perimeter. Yeah. But some areas it's growing all the way up the trees, and some areas it's only like knee height. So it's just kind of picking and choosing where is manageable at that point.
So are you also documenting the size?
Yeah.
Okay.
Within each data point, there's like a percent cover. We're putting down notes for the size and description of like where it is off the trail or off the tree, and really just, and we're also including pictures as well within the data point. So when, say you were to go back, you could compare the picture with what you're looking for, and maybe compare like how much it's grown, or really just kind of identify what you're looking for.
So what's the overall objective, or will you have some kind of presentation or report at the end of the summer?
Yes, I believe it was the 22nd.
Yeah,
Michelle said is our end date or our goal to form a presentation for the select board meeting, and at that point it will be kind of what we've learned, what areas are overwhelmed with invasives, what areas are no invasive. Like today we saw mostly through Break Hill was almost all just blueberry bushes and Virginia creeper with no invasives, which is good to see. But kind of just presenting what we've learned, how we would change our approach maybe next time, what difficulties we encountered, and kind of just something along that line.
The goal is with this mapping is to eventually let those involved in the potential removal of these species to be able to create an adequate management plan to go along with it. So
Great. Sounds like you're off to a great start.
Yeah.
Are you learning anything?
Yeah, it definitely, with the help of Michelle, set us up very nicely with the resources we need, and Carol and Patricia. The first, I would say, week and a half gave us a very good, I guess, like walkthrough and training. But the plan ID and another supervisor we had, Nancy, gave us a very clear walkthrough with the kind of software we're using. So it's definitely first week or so we were very shaky with identifying, but by now we're on top of it.
everything just looked kind of green and brown.
May I weigh in?
Sure.
I met the guys at our WN2 meetings, West Newbury Wild and Native, and yeah, Carol Becker and Nancy Powell and Trisha Reeser, everybody, you know, would like them to make the most of this. But a couple of the places that you were just talking about, Rick, were you talking about the backfield, the big field which has a mown path up the middle?
Yeah, I've heard that referred to as different things. So the backfield is.
Yeah, no, because the lower field, the middle field, and the upper field are what we refer to as the ones closest to Main Street. The lower field has the parking lot and the kiosk. The middle field has the jump course. And yesterday we had 55 happy horses who had a wonderful pipe stave event there. And they did ride up to the northernmost edge of the backfield and then down along the ball fields getting back. That was beautiful. That whole backfield, though, has gone to pot.
Yeah.
It's filled with madder or dead straw. And so we no longer, I think, have any farmers who are going to be interested in harvesting it. That, I think, needs to be a priority. I also serve as a board member of ECTA, the Essex County Trail Association. And a couple of years ago, we spent a ton of money to clear the water tower trail that goes from Page School down into Riverbend, cut out all of the nasty multifloros and the grape and the raspberries and things that were grown over. It has completely grown over again. And ECTA's project for West Newbury this year is further down in Riverbend. There's an area that's always wet and it's very unpleasant to walk there because horses do churn it up. Probably now it's dry, but it is someplace that ECTA is planning to spend money. But I wish that we had a more proactive in-town group of younger people who can maintain things. My husband used to do it, Steve Reese used to do it, John Dodge used to do it, but we need young men with chainsaws and an interest in
or women. Or women.
Or women.
I've done some trail cutting work with a chainsaw. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. We all have, but there are limitations and it's expensive. Fortunately, we do have the Chestons who live in town, and they have been hired by Actor to do projects. They did the water tower trail 2 years ago. And I'm happy, whenever these situations arise, I'm happy to share them with Actor, which is a pretty well-funded organization. And we spend a lot of money here in West Newbury maintaining trails. Anyway, those are just a couple of my concerns, and I wanted to let the guys be aware of them. And any removal that you could do would be definitely appreciated. Thank you. Thank you.
All good?
Yeah, good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Appreciate
Kevin,
it.
thanks a lot. Good luck on the poison ivy.
Thank you.
Avoiding it.
I don't know how that's possible. I just see it and I get it.
Since Sam is here and it's for item F.
So we can just keep
If
going.
we take
Item
item
F.
F out of
Oh,
there,
so Sam can-
Absolutely, yeah, that's my plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Sam, you're off.
Wow. How you guys doing?
How are you doing?
Fantastic. All right. So one of my goals when I started here, just before COVID hit, was to get our zoning that is in dire need of fixing reorganized in a manner that we could actually start making those fixes. Newbury and Groveland had the same issue when I went there. In looking at trying to fix pieces, the way it's jumbled right now, to try and pull something out, it's like pulling a loose string on a sweater. It just unravels and you can't work with it. So what I did 2 years ago and was starting to get going, and 2 years ago we talked, you know, between myself, the town planner, and Angus about getting this going. And at that time, there was just such a workload, it wasn't possible. What we're finding now, because of the deficiencies in the zoning, is it's creating more of a workload to leave it alone than it would be to actually fix it. I did an example of something similar that I did in the other 2 towns with a table of content format. I actually went through the exercise because having COVID and know where to go, I reorganized it for fun. And just make sure there was nothing that was gonna make this fall apart. And it reorganizes very easily. For the most part, there's some additional legwork to do. One of the concerns with Leah and Angus was having to provide a redline version. I worked with KP and Groveland. They said it's absolutely not required. And not only that, it would be very confusing to do a redline version because there's so much involved, so many moving pieces. So the way they addressed it through a warrant article is just this section moved here, this section moved here, and that was it. Because there's no change to the bylaw other than where it's located. So
if that was going to be my reading what you, so excellent content essentially is not changing.
The content is exactly the same. Somewhere along the, you know,
there must be some things that don't jive with each other. That they're contradictory.
For the most part, this one was pretty good.
Okay.
I haven't found too many things that directly conflicted each other, other than language we've already adopted that will carry forward. Stuff like the non-conforming. It gives me all the authority in the world to approve non-conforming changes, and then right after it pulls that out from under me and says, unless you're going to enlarge or alter. I don't know what type of other changes you would do with building other than enlarging and altering. So yeah, it's things like that. So the conflicts that are already there continue to be conflicts.
Okay.
It doesn't make it any worse. The only section in my example that I redid to have more consistent language was section 1, which is your purpose, scope, authority, which is pretty standard language used, you know, across the Commonwealth. It could be, and that's one of those things where either we could just leave it alone or fix it now. Stuff like severability. There was probably 8 sections where it brought up severability of the section. All were written slightly different. So to bring them all into one, I just chose standard language and did that. So I found with that, the same thing with authority, purpose, and stuff. It made more sense to take those, put them kind of together and create a, you know, a clear sentence or paragraph based on what was written throughout the bylaw. So those were really the only things that conflicted it and I felt needed to be changed. And it was similar again in Newbury and Groveland that we have these, as pieces were added, they have that language in them, and they were close to the same language, but not exact. So what we ended up doing is just saying we are replacing section 1 with a new section 1. It's available for the warrant, and then everything else was just a listing of this piece went here, this one went here. It's a long article when you write out every section and where it went, but it's a whole lot easier to understand than a red line version. So
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for tonight and what me and Angus discussed was just the support of the selectmen and approaching the planning board and moving this forward. I know they don't have a lot of help. It's a little bit more than part-time one-man show with a little bit less than part-time assistant. I don't mind doing a lot of the heavy lifting. This is my third run through on this exercise. I think it's needed for my sanity. It's needed too, because if I have to keep trying to enforce this, and it really has been showing to be a punishment for the citizens and the boards, because they're trying to use this as a guidance document, both citizens and boards. I'm trying to use it as enforcement, and in a lot of cases it just doesn't make sense or doesn't lend itself to the easy reading. So I think this is the sort of the first step in just sitting around the campfire, singing Kumbaya, everyone getting together, agreeing. We got to take these first steps with this, because not only do we have stuff in here that is confusing, contradictory, there's some sections that we found that are actually now, because of case law moving on, aren't even legal anymore. So it is a big problem that's not going away and is getting bigger. And I'd rather get it now when we have a potential local wetlands bylaw, we have stormwater bylaws, we're talking about housing, but you know, all these things we want to add, and we have no base to add to. I'm very much into building. If you don't have a good foundation, it doesn't work. Yeah. So I'm just looking to get a good foundation in place, so now we can start taking those pieces out. If the non-conforming section is bad, great, pull it out and then replace it at town meeting. And that makes it easier too. Instead of doing red line versions, you've got this is the old, here's the new. You know, you can do a narrative of what was changed or a description, but it doesn't have to be as cumbersome as plucking bits and pieces from everywhere. So that's the hope for step 1.
That sounds pretty reasonable to me. So I'm curious, the places where they was the phrase we use, essentially they no longer comply with the law. There's some places where we probably are now outside the bounds of what's really of the way we are able to. I suspect one of them is our solar bylaw.
Yeah. That's definitely one. And then terms like we found, I can't remember if it's in this one or not, like Groveland, when I did theirs, they still define family as man, woman, and child. Clearly that's not an acceptable definition, or that is not what we know now is family. So getting rid of language like that is just dated, and it can be insulting, and it's also isolating. So I just, you know, there's better ways we can phrase things. There's better ways we can have a practice where things can get done a whole lot easier within town for the citizenry, and actually make sense. And then I can enforce them too, which is what you haven't before.
It just seems like a daunting task. That's
well.
You having done this before though, so now you know what's involved. So tell me how much work is involved here.
This was probably 3 months of me sitting in my backyard during COVID, taking one piece, swapping it, and just comparing, contrasting, and going step by step, and then going through it and making sure I didn't miss, and making sure I didn't miss again, making sure a section numbers match with new section numbers. And if the planning board decides that, hey, this isn't the version or the way we want to go and want to organize it in a different way, my feelings aren't hurt. It's just something that I felt was a good format that the other towns have followed, where you have your purpose and scope, definitions, your locations of zones, the locations of the overlays, what you can do in them, what you can't do in them, and then all your other pieces that, you know, your solar, your wind power, your cell towers, just it just makes for an easier flow for what most people come in and looking. We're mainly 1 and 2 family. They just want to get through, you know, what the purpose and scope is, definitions, where their district is, where am I, and what can I do with a 1 and 2 family. And so that's kind of front loaded a little bit, so that it's, my goal is to make not only it easier for everyone else, there's some selfishness in here. I want to make it easier for me. And when someone comes and sits in front of me and I'm spending most of my time flipping pages trying to go, okay, I think there was a piece over here, and I think there's a piece here, and maybe you can do this, but this language conflicts. It doesn't make me look really good, and it's a lot of time taken to give a simple answer that should be, you know, you should be able to do A, B, and C with little or no process as of right, or through a special permit planning, whatever it is. But, it just, you know, we don't even have a table of uses. So when people come in and say, what can I do in the business zone? It's scattered throughout. And myself and Leah have made our own personal table of uses by going through and just creating a chart, so we can at least, without having to flip back and forth. Because again, in some places it gives it to you, and then a little later on it, there's an if or a but or a maybe. And if you don't catch that right up front, you've given bad advice to someone that's, you know, potentially buying a property to do something with. We've told them, yeah, we think it's good, and then come to find out we missed something. That's not a position we want to be in. And so this is trying to just get that squared away. I've talked to Leah about it before. She absolutely agrees it needs to be done. Her obvious concern is her time, and, you know, having none of it. So again, I certainly am very happy to do a lot of the heavy lifting on this. You know, again, I went through the exercise of doing it. It is doable. It's much more user friendly. Even again, more so for myself, because I put it in the same format I did the last 2. So now it's really user friendly for me. Again, if others that have to use it don't like it, planning is going to have the biggest weigh in on this for the most part, as to how they want to proceed, or even if they want to. Yeah, feelings aren't hurt if someone wants to juggle things around a little bit or do it differently. I don't claim to know all, or, you know.
So would the general layout follow a similar pattern to what you were involved with in Groveland and or Newbury after the fact? I mean, there's some advantage in that, you know, certainly from your standpoint, from a, you know, from an enforcement and you know, explanation standpoint, but there probably are multiple advantages, and, you know, content obviously will be different and their own set of regulations, but if the layout and sequencing is similar, that would probably be good.
Yes, what I did, Martha Taylor was and she still is the planner in Newbury at the time. And when we took a look at this, we went through, you know, town after town of how things were organized. And this was, for the most part, the common flow of zoning bylaw. Obviously, your cities and larger towns have a lot going on. It gets a lot involved, but similar, towns to us mostly followed a similar kind of flow pattern, where you have the basics of, you know, what we want, what the words mean, where it is, what you can do, what you can't do. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward way to go. And then you have all the other specialty bylaws, you know, your affordable housing, your site plan review, your wind towers, solar, like we talked about. But those are pretty easy when you look at a table of contents and it says large scale solar or small scale solar. You know, if you're doing large scale, you go to the section that says large scale solar. But they follow the same process. What's our purpose and intent? What's the definitions? Where's the location? And can I do it there? If I can, great. Now I can go see solar. So it flows. So far, it's been pretty good. Haven't had too many negative, you know, of course, no one likes going through zoning, so those negatives are still going to be there.
So why do these three towns have the bylaws set up the way they did? Do you know why they all need to be changed?
It was all very similar to the position where is there was, you know, early on some very basic bylaws. Along the lines, stuff was added and then more added and added and added, and you get this. Ever see one of those houses out there where you started off with a nice little colonial and then there's additions everywhere and it's this massive, just mess? That's what we got. Okay. Just a massive mess. Really what we need to do is knock it down and build a nice looking building.
So do you have any sense that the planning board is on board with this? Or I mean, it sounds like Leah is.
Again, it comes down to time.
Yeah.
Angus felt this was kind of a good first step to make sure that you as the board were comfortable with it, thought it was a you know, something that we should bring forward. So I just wanted to get the input of, you know, if you said, hey, we don't even think this is worth the time right now, I just go, okay, I'll put this on the back burner and walk away. We'll come back at another time, and that's fine. But the longer we use it, the longer I'm here, the more deficient it seems to be. And it just causes more and more time. Time of the boards, time of the applicants, time of myself. And I think, you know, that scale's tipped from a couple of years ago of we don't have the time to do this to we have to make the time to do this. You know.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just looking at Groveland's bylaw here, see how it's organized.
Yeah, and so far it's been pretty easy to plug new things in. You know, we have a bunch of reserve sections that were already reserved in our bylaw, so that makes it just especially easy when you can take those numbers and go, okay, we'll just use the next section and we'll slide in the affordable housing zoning we come up with. So those things. You know, I'm hoping planning's not gonna, you know, hunt me down.
Oh, I think they're gonna love your help. Thank you.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were gonna say they're gonna love hunting me down.
Makes perfect sense.
Oh, good. So yeah, we're just trying to make sure everyone's on board, and if they are, great, we'll start going, and hopefully we'll make some progress, and then can start actually making some real, you know, content changes that help everyone. You know, just to make
well, I like what you said, Sam, about just I find it's just a personal thing, but I find it hard to like deal with a red line thing. I like the whole page or the whole paragraph. Here's the old one, here's the new one, and look at the thing in total rather than this sentence was good, but the next sentence not good. I find that
when we do smaller bits, we can certainly do a here's the old, here's the new, here's the red line for the folks that like red lines. I'm with you. I can't stand a red line version. I'd rather read it, read the other one, and come to my own conclusion. Yeah. But I realize the lawyers and, you know, others like, you know, what exactly changed word for word. And absolutely, and this just makes it easier once we're organized to take out one section, change it, do that red line versus an entire document of let's just rewrite this whole thing. I've had no problem at town meetings with going into the people and just saying, here's why we're doing it, just like I've done tonight. Unanimous votes in both towns that, yeah, I mean, with no change, I think it's hard to argue that we're just going to organize it. I don't think there's, of course you get the one or two that are always, what do you do? What are you trying to sneak through? But again, both towns unanimous. It is just, reorganization. Errata's taken care of in there. If we missed a comma or something wasn't capitalized or was capitalized or spelled wrong. And again, in the warrant article, KP, in the last one just made a note that, it had no effect on the actual language in the bylaw. It was just, we want to present as people that understand it and use the English language properly.
So will there need to be extensive legal review once? I mean, how did that work?
Once it's done, they do take it and we'll go section by section and make sure that, yes, when you say, section, 5 point whatever, when here, that's there. They don't want
something to fall through the cracks.
Yeah. And it's, I welcome that. I don't want anything lost or missed or inadvertently done incorrectly that makes a bad bylaw worse instead of better. The intent is to organize it and make improvements, not make a mess.
Yeah.
So I assume because this is, although it's not intended to be a content change, because it is a change in zoning bylaw, it probably still needs to be approved by the Attorney General's office, and they'll go through it with fine tooth comb.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the more we are prepared and ready, the easier their job is, and they can just get approval to us. That way we don't have to go back to town meeting and make more changes. It's a one scale.
That's true.
It's been fairly, third time's maybe not a challenge, but it's been fairly easy each time, both with all the town boards, the town meeting, with town council, and with the AG's office. I think everyone views this as just a necessary improvement so that we can actually get down to business and do something worth doing as far as our bylaws are concerned and bringing them out of the last millennium into this one.
I thought you were going to say dark ages.
Well, I wasn't going back that far.
Yeah. No, I think it sounds good. Cool. Do you need a vote from us, or you're just looking for general sense?
I don't know. I think Angus just wanted a general, not a support from the board.
I don't think you hear any objections. So
No,
I would
that's great.
And then, from here, my assumption would be I'll kind of see if I can meet the planning board, just let them know the same things, how they'd like to approach it, how much involvement they want or don't want, and then go from there. Obviously, they'll have, once a document's written, whatever it is, they'll have eyes on to go through and make any corrections or bring up any concerns. But hopefully, it's pretty straightforward that we move one block to another location, and that's all there is to it.
So, is your plan to have this for a fall town meeting?
Spring's the annual, right? Yeah. So I'd rather go with an annual. I don't know, with zoning, I just feel it should be an annual meeting.
Okay, I agree. Yeah.
I hate to add to a big agenda, but I think it's an important piece that needs to be heard by the largest group possible.
Mm-hmm. Plus, you want to do this in the next month, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. We're getting close to fall on me. That's scary. Yeah, that's right. I went to Target and all the back to school stuff's out. And just, it was a week. I think I went in like a week before my kid got out of school when they were setting it up. He didn't like that.
Don't rush things.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for your time tonight.
Sure, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for working on it.
No, gave me stuff to do during COVID. Pandemics are productive. Have a good one.
Yeah, every crisis is an opportunity.
We'll see you then. See you real soon.
Yes.
Wayne is here for
what?
line item transfers in H.
Right.
Oh, okay. So let's skip for the moment G and go to H. Any objections?
No.
Okay.
I just want to see if you had any questions regarding those transfers. It's more than we usually have.
Wayne, I just had one, just one question about the whole thing. There was, on one of them, there was a comment that the cost of electricity had gone up a lot. Is that true, or we just use more?
I actually think we use less. I haven't done the full audit yet. I usually do that at the end of the year. We see what the results are, but I definitely saw energy costs seem a little bit higher this year than in the past. I mean, we made it barely but I mean, we got hit with everything this year. I had to do some creative financing this year. Just inflation just killed us.
Yeah, I think if we were to look at our electric, like even looking at our home electric bills, you'd see the actual energy costs, all the, transmission, distribution, all that stuff, they stayed constant, but the actual energy cost itself was higher.
Production was higher. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still being offset by the Main Street solar production, but that number, that's all goes by its schedule. We know what the cost or what the value of that is, but the energy that is supplied by the utility, we don't. There's other factors affecting that, cost of natural gas.
Probably natural gas,
right,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just a comment, that's all. So any...
I didn't have any other questions for Wayne.
Rick, you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so let's...
So do we have to go through these individually?
Unless there's an objection to one in particular, I would say you can approve all three, all more than three.
More than three.
I had a question on
why don't we do them by department? I think that I'd feel more comfortable that way.
Okay.
So I would make a motion to approve the interdepartmental transfer, end of year transfer for the DPW as noted in this packet.
Second.
Further discussion, all those in favor, Archibald, aye.
Parker,
aye.
Do you roll call on us?
No, I just misspoke. I'd make a motion to approve the interdepartmental end of year transfer for the fire department.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We had one for let's see, there was a DPW.
There's two for planning, but one of them is from the assessor's expense account. I just was curious about that. Is that something both?
What page is that on?
Page 103. 102 is from the planning expense to planning salary, but this one is assessor's expense to planning salary. Which was put in by Angus, so.
Assessor's expenses to planning and so on.
$469.69.
I don't know what's
I texted Leah if you wanna go to like police and keep going through those. So maybe Leah will respond quickly.
I just was curious that it was between departments and under, the board of assessors. Is there anything to say about it, or that's just something that the town manager is able to do?
We have to do this by when? We have to do this by 15th. So
yeah, I think they have to Yeah.
There's also police department.
Yeah, police, and there's a finance one.
So if you want to approve police and finance. And
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the police department end of year transfer
Second.
Yeah, that is the,
in the amount of $54,293. All those in favor?
Aye.
There's also a veterans one.
Page 108.
yeah, the last one, yeah.
Go ahead while I'm looking for somebody.
Yeah, okay, well, I move to then to approve the request for appropriation from the veterans benefits expenses to the voters' grade expenses, $1,032.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And then there's the last one, which is Board of Health.
And there's a finance one, we'll go with that too.
This must have been at the top. Before DPW.
The veterans and Board of Health are at the very end. The finance is at the very end, but I might be looking at the wrong. I might just be looking at the back of the Stephanie handed me.
You were looking for the finance of that?
That's what I'm looking
Now,
at.
Board of Health is page 34.
34, okay.
Finance is page 87.
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion to approve the end of year transfer for the Board of Health in the amount of $111.51. All those in favor?
So second.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So
Yeah, I was curious about the finance one,
where's
page 87.
87.
And it's finance department expenses to FICA, so this FICA is going to be proportional to salaries, total salaries, so.
right, so but it's also, there's two parts to FICA. There's the employees part and the employers part.
Right, 1.65%.
So they just, it was just under estimated.
Or it went up more than.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in any event, I guess so you can make a motion for that, yeah. Yeah, okay. So
go ahead.
Make a motion to approve the finance department transfer from $1,935.62 from finance department expenses to FICA.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we still have the weird question about assessing and so what page is, where is that one?
That was the last of them. It was like 104 or something.
103.
103.
Okay, so okay, so this says is made for the between departmental appropriations. If you read the request is made hereby for the following transfer between departmental appropriations, not intra, but between departments in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 33B of Mass General Law. So this is asking for a transfer between departments. Rather than between a departmental line item. This is actually.
Yeah, that same language is on all of them.
It's the same
I
form.
don't have an
exactly.
issue with it. I just was curious. That's the
I'm
only.
curious too, but
it's not worth pulling it up. It's
no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the transfer of $469.69 from a assessor's expenses account, a lot of S's there, to the planning salary and wages account. All those in favor?
Aye.
The other thing about that is that balance.
You did assessor's planning, but there was also the planning to planning.
Yeah, so the planning transfer zeroed out the planning expense, and so additional money was needed, so that was taken from the assessor's expense to cover the planning salary.
Oh, okay. I was wondering how it got to the total. Okay, yeah, okay. Got it. Okay, so additional transfer between intra-departmental is planning expenses to planning salary and wages in the amount of $1,447.77. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Can we get them all, Jim?
I think so. I'm gonna have. It looks like I just need Archie's signature at the end of the meeting. But there's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We got those all done. We read every line item. Expenditure here to make sure they're all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then I guess we would go back to item D.
Correct. So that is on. Now we're going to go back to find those pages. It's actually pretty easy on the phone. Okay, here we are. Item D. Reappointment of emergency management representatives and staff for FY23. I would make a motion to approve the listing of people as noted in today's packet of emergency management personnel with a term ending 6/30/2023. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Stephanie just texted me back. She will be available in a couple seconds. If you guys have further questions on planning. Okay. That plan transfer.
Okay.
Just for clarification.
And so now we want G.
Yes.
So do you need to decide venue tonight or just the date?
Neither.
Okay.
This is purely, Angus and I have had this discussion a couple times. We wanted to make you guys aware of the situation. I even had a conversation with Casey by accident today, and I said, hey, we have this on the agenda. What's your opinion? she felt very strongly that weekends were very good. She felt a lot of people in town liked them and enjoyed being able to like get it done early on a Saturday morning and then going about their day as opposed to having to come in after your day is done and then spend several hours at town meeting. And I said, is it okay if I convey that sentiment? She said, absolutely, please do. So she felt that it was beneficial and we've done it. So we've done it 5 times now. She felt that every time it's gone off relatively without a hitch. She felt very comfortable with doing that.
6 times the charm.
6 times the charm.
So not necessarily outside, but
she liked it outside. She said she thought it worked well. Other than her like seeing the cards every once in a while, that was the only problem she had. But she said she felt that when it was conveyed to her by people, not in her personal opinion, but when people would come up to her.
Playing with house money this morning.
yeah, I know. I
So it.
I mean, the weather does present.
As she pointed out, to me, we can always adjourn from outdoors to indoors immediately.
Well, no.
No, we can't.
I mean, the parking lot is all set up for it, so they'd have to do a double setup.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they have chairs to do it.
So
unless we knew that it, you know, it's a Friday morning that Saturday was going to be bad, then people could, DPW guys could move the
that seems to make sense
stuff, but you can't do it at the time it's happening.
Yeah, they've already set up.
Yeah, but it seems to me that we could make a decision, you know, at the end of Thursday or Friday morning, that it's going to be, you know, plan to be, assuming the consensus was this, you know, plan for it to be outside, and then, you know, with the understanding that we have to make a call, and when that call will be made, how far in advance.
With your town clerk's hat, Jim, is that legal to do? Are we informing the voters enough if we say it's going to be in the parking lot and then it moves to the annex? Is that close enough or no?
Because it's legally the same address, I think it would be pretty clear, especially if you put out signs and people show up to the parking lot, that it's not there, it's in the building. Right. We can send out a reverse 911. I don't think there's anything wrong with accommodating for weather.
And if there's anybody who wanders around the parking lot while everybody else in the building, if there's anybody who wanders around the parking lot,
you know how people are. There could be somebody that complains about that.
Right? Wayne can set up the electric sign in the parking lot saying move to annex. I think, and I think we could definitely figure that out very quickly.
Okay.
Well, so I just want to make the point that people that Casey talked to may not be a broad swath of town. We've had a lot of feedback from parents with young kids in sports on Saturdays that they feel excluded from town meeting now because they can't attend. So, and at the time we talked about, well, maybe the fall will be in the morning and the annual will be at night, you know, but.
So I mean, it's interesting. I don't deny that, but I haven't heard that from anybody. So
you can't win though, because then there are people that say, oh, I have kids, I have to put them to bed, and you can't expect me to stay here till 11 o'clock at night. I have young kids. So no matter what you do, someone is, because I've heard that. We can't go because it's on a, you know, weekday night, it's too difficult. So I've heard.
Yeah, so that's why I think it has some merit to alternate.
Well, I think, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know which would be better, you know.
I don't know which one would be better for which, but yeah.
We'll leave it up to the legislature, and what they'll do is it'll have to all be virtual. It'll all have to be hybrid with subtitles.
So this was more just of a, we need to start thinking about.
Yeah.
The 2 dates that we've come down to would be October 22nd and October 24th. 22nd would be Saturday, 24th would be the Monday.
So those are the dates that would work for your schedule for the election.
Oh, that won't work at all for my election. I'm gonna have to run double duty no matter what. But that's far enough out that we can plan.
So 10/22.
With the 22nd, just purely for my personal preference, I can start my early voting on the 23rd and go from there, because I'm only required to do 4 hours on a weekend. We could also do something cool where we could allow for early voting 1 hour before town meeting and 1 hour after, either one. So we could do that on the 22nd. So it'd be like 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We can early vote, go to town meeting 9 to whenever, and then an hour after town meeting closes, we can do early voting, and then vice versa. If it was on Monday, we could do an hour prior to town meeting and then an hour after. So this is just something, an added feature to town meeting that we can add now.
So speaking,
Stephanie and Lee are here. Well,
Yes.
let's.
Well, let me just start one.
Okay.
So speaking for myself, I have a conflict on the 22nd that I probably cannot. It's a wedding that I probably cannot go to. So whatever that's worth.
I have excuses for that.
It's not my wedding either. I didn't schedule it.
Any other immediate reactions to dates other than that? Keep it in your head. We'll talk about it in the future stuff.
All right, thank you.
So I texted both of you,
Oh,
so I apologize that I got both of you on here. But it was a question regarding the end of year transfer from planning, from assessors to planning, and they just wanted a little clarification.
Okay, Stephanie Frontier, town accountant. The reason why I chose, I had to go outside the planning department because we needed a transfer in the amount of $1,917.46. And within the planning budget, there was only $1,447.77. So I just picked a random department that had some funding remaining for year end that I knew would have no more bills flowing through.
So if you do that, Stephanie, do you typically let that department know, or is it just, you know, at your discretion?
Yeah, I talked to the department to ensure that there's no more bills coming through.
Okay.
And this week is under Mass General Law. Friday's our last day to do a FY22 warrant without carrying over any funding. So I try to pick a department that I know doesn't have any items ordered on June 30th with waiting for items to come in.
Okay.
Stephanie, it's a very small amount of money, but I'm just curious, does that affect how that department, in other words, it would, you know, say it wasn't that, but say it was, you know, $7,000 instead of $400, whatever, would that affect how their how that department's spending looked on their budget for in other words, you don't readjust the new department's voted budget.
That's correct.
So,
yeah.
So in other words, it does look like, in this case, that the assessing department spent more money than they actually did.
So there's Angus and I go back and forth on this all the time. There's a special report I can run within our financial software Vadar to show this. It's just a matter of when we're doing our budgeting document, we could add another column like I did in a previous town called transfers. So that way there, it's clear to everyone looking at it, but it does not, it depends on which report, long story short, that I run.
Okay.
So it could be called out, but this is only one interdepartment.
Yeah, it's very, I was just sort of more curious about the process. So we all
could
be in a situation that you know, someone would say, well, why did you spend so much more on that line item this year when they actually didn't? It's just that they had a lot extra. They gave it to another department. Yeah.
Correct. And we try to, if these situations come up, we try to propose transfers within the department itself. But in this particular scenario, like I said, there was nothing anywhere. So I had to pull the 469.69 over to come up with the deficit.
Okay, well, we're good. We approved it.
I apologize that I'm late. I had another meeting for something else.
Oh, that's good. Well, you answered the questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
You're welcome.
Oh, what?
FICA?
No.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Leah.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie. Thanks, Leah.
No worries. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Where? Okay, we did that. We are going to table item I until we get further information.
Yeah, that sounds, I'm good with that. So, when you're wondering if it would make sense to, have you ever spoken with Greg Haddon? No, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might be a good, that's a
yeah,
very good
yeah,
point,
he might be able to give you like a real direct, straightforward answer.
Okay.
I think I have a number at the end.
I do.
Okay.
that, Rick, I think you hit the nail there. Good. Okay, update, RE, the Whetstone Greenway pending filing notice, notice of intent with the Conservation Commission for the new trail. I don't know if we need to discuss much about this other than that it's
Angus
happening.
has signatory authority on this, right? The board's not signing it.
On the
NOI.
The NOI filing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised they changed. It's now one long continuous walkway. Before it was two short ones, but there must be a reason that they did that in conjunction with the Conservation Commission. And Mike Boutte approved it, which was the other thing. Yeah, because he's kind of left out initially. Yeah.
Next trick will be to figure out how we fund the whole thing.
I know.
Maybe one was cheaper than two. That wasn't good.
Yeah. Some creative financing you got going on.
Okay. Okay. Sign policy related to CPA projects.
Yeah, so this is something that we're going to go back to on the CPC, is installing signs just saying this project was funded. But given the recent requests, some of which have been turned down by residents, I wanted to make sure that town boards and committees are following the same rules that residents are. So, you know, we could put them up for only 2 months as, you know, is currently allowed. Two-week periods.
Okay.
So I just want to get feedback. I mean, Wayne thought that perhaps maybe just a blanket approval for CPC signs would be okay.
Yeah, I personally think that makes perfect sense. I mean, you know, CPC is different than everything else that signs go up for.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, the projects that are funded with town money, amplified by the state CPA match, and I think we're mandated to have signage by CPA.
We're not.
Oh, we're not. Okay, I thought that was okay. I thought that was
a practice. We stopped doing it because we lost the signs, I think.
Okay.
But they've been recovered.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So, so one thing we added to the application is just a checklist that, you know, do you have owner permission? Because, for example, at Greenbelt, we have to get permission from them to put a sign on the River Road conservation area. But for town property, that shouldn't be an issue as long as the select board is okay with it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I didn't realize you were just thinking about doing it for a short period of time.
Well, that would be to comply with the sign policy.
Right.
But if ideally it would be longer, I think. I don't know what a reasonable amount of time is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good if it's like a construction project or something building or like maintenance on the old town hall. It's nice to have it there while the work's going on, I think, and maybe a short time after. But that would be different for each project, you know, along with the after.
Right. It's funny. I read the agenda, and then I was on a CBA project in Rockport, and just like right after I read that, so I saw the sign. They had a sign, but to me it looked like it was a permanent sign, but relatively. This was sort of in a you might say like a trail area, and so it looked to me like in this case this was not something that they were going to just. You know, not like a sign you'd see Mayor Menino, you know, this funded, one of those big, huge signs, a very small sign, ground level, only maybe a couple of inches off the ground and a couple, you know, 18 inches long or something. But it seemed like maybe if we had those, it could be there like at the playground or something. Permanently, those it seems like people know where it's coming from, and not necessarily just for a couple of months. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
Well, I mean, in that case, you know, so those,
these seem a little big. The ones that we have
and
now.
that's why they're temporary.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I hear what you're saying, and maybe it would be a good thing to have. You know, permanent signage on CPA project. You know, it's going to vary from project to project.
I mean, it doesn't. It could even be like this big.
Yeah.
So just make that a requirement. If you submit a project for approval, you must also.
I don't know. I'm throwing it out. I don't know.
I like that idea.
I mean, it seems to me as though it would be, you know, the size of the signage and the sort of the style of the signage might change a little bit based on what project is, you know. So, you know, for the playground, I'm trying to think what other CPA funded things would require.
So right now there's one at the old town hall for the maintenance work.
Yep.
And then one at the Page School. And then we're going to put the third one at the Greenbelt property. I think that's going to be too big for them. So we may have to do something different anyway.
Yeah. But, you know,
so you take up a whole parking space.
Yeah.
We only have two.
Yeah. So, I mean, you might want us, if Greenbelt would allow it, you know, a small permanent plaque of some kind up there, just like at the playground you want. Yeah. But on the other hand, to me at least, at the town hall, where it's a project, when the project is done, I don't think we want a sign living there forever because there's enough other signage on the building anyway that, you know.
That's true. Yeah. So maybe we just think about it, but in terms of the ones that we want to put the CBC wants to put up during and immediately thereafter the project, I think we should have a blanket approval on town land. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would any notification be required or just?
No, I don't see why.
So okay. Like the Greenbelt property, there isn't really a in process on it. You know, it's purchased and they built parking lot and then it's available. So I don't think the temporary signs really make sense there. Whereas for a construction project, maybe that's where a temporary sign does make sense.
But then when it's complete, you know, I mean, I kind of like the permanent sign more.
So do you think that something like the town hall should have a permanent sign that CPA funds were?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess every
like
project is good.
everyone is like, there's a different nuance to it. The
Right.
town hall could be, it'll probably be fixed again in 4 years.
Right.
How many
Well, that was
signs
kind of,
do you
that was
need?
kind of where I was going.
Yeah. The Page School could have like a ladder.
Yeah.
Well, so the one is currently at the town hall anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe if for a temporary sign for a project that's short duration, you know, makes sense. An improvement on an existing building perhaps, but for a brand new project, maybe it makes more sense to have something permanent.
Okay, that's a good solution, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do we need a vote on exempting the CPC from, or the CPC from?
Okay, so say, you know, using, again, because it's a case at hand right now, using town hall, does the sign go up now and stay through the duration of the project, or when does it, how long does it say?
I would suggest having it up for the duration of the project so people know. Right. And then once it's done, there's no need for it to be there.
Right.
Yeah. I like the Page School, we could have had, it's up there now, we could have had it for the whole construction project.
Except then it would have gotten run over by a bulldozer.
Right. But I think in that case, it's a brand new playground. It'd be nice to have permanent signs as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just trying to imagine examples. What other, I should know off the top of my head, but in the last 2 years, what other CPA projects or CPA, you know, the expenditure CPA funds for the property up Coffin Street, you know, we're not.
Got there.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
not
at some point
we could put a plaque that's 1,000 feet off the road.
Well, okay, at the Artichoke River, where that property.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of studies that have been done, historical survey, you know, sign for that.
Right. Okay.
All right.
So anyway, so yeah, do we need to vote on this? How?
Well, I think we can vote on at least the temporary signs.
If it's for a construction project, that it would
be
the duration of the project.
That there's on town land, then you don't need to ask about it. Yeah.
Okay.
With that.
So just construction projects or any
construction or upgrade or.
What about permanent signs? It sounds like you're making a distinction, so I just want to make sure that we're not running.
Yeah, I like the idea of the permanent signs, but
I guess the select board policy is on temporary signs, so maybe that's the way we do it.
That's correct.
Right? Yeah. All right, so we're just looking for an exemption for temporary signs.
Okay, so
yeah, determined by the CPC.
Yeah, and maybe going forward when there are CPC projects, the CPA funded projects, then we should address that. What is the permanent? What would be permanent sign? That's something that the proponent should propose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're planning on adding it to the application process and that discussion. All right.
I'll take a picture of it so you can.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
So did we vote? No.
So
well,
as to Rick's,
with a motion, then
it was kind of a complicated motion. Yeah.
If you could read it.
Okay. Motion is that the four in progress, in construction CPA projects that are on town land, that there's a exemption for the temporary sign permit for all. So, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item L. Mr. Parker can tell us what's up with that.
Okay, yeah, so, you know, so at town meeting, we allocated $50,000 for a study of potential solar site feasibility. And there were 5 sites that were identified initially. There was discussion that there might be 1 or 2 additional sites. I've had somebody suggest 1 other site since. And I guess what I wanted to just talk about is, what is the process? How are we going to choose a vendor? And what will the scope be? And who's going to be involved in the process? It's not something that I think the board wants to be involved with. Certainly Angus will want to weigh in however he wants to weigh in. Angus or Wayne may very well want to have involvement. The Energy and Sustainability Committee, which is kind of a proponent for the board, will want to weigh in. And who is going to be part of the process, and how do we get the ball rolling? Because I think we should get the ball rolling fairly soon.
So is the amount of the appropriation for this such that I don't think we need to have a bidding process for the consultant, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and particularly because it's essentially like an engineering study or engineering. I don't know if technically it's an engineering study, but I think it falls into the same category.
Right.
We were approached by quite a while back before this all started, and we put together the article for funding. We were approached by a company called Cadmus Group, who actually was involved with the Main Street Solar project. They did the RFP for that, which was then issued. It was publicized, and from that RFP, we got the vendors that we selected, from which we selected one. So Cadmus had approached us. I think they're confident. They proved their confidence, I think, last time around. And it seems to me that it would make sense to work with them again. But that's the question: is we don't have to solicit bids from anybody else, but do we want to? My inclination would be to work with somebody who's proven themselves before and who's in the business. They're a nonprofit focused on helping implement renewable energy.
I don't recall what the way this article was proposed. Was it the Energy and Sustainability Committee that was proposing it, or was it a select board?
I think it was a select board, but Energy and Sustainability, essentially through me as a member of that, brought it to the select board.
I mean, do you think the committee has the ability and?
Oh no, I don't think the committee should lead the charge, but should be represented.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to represent, assuming the committee will allow.
So just so you know, we did have it in as a request by the Energy and Sustainability.
Okay, so we did. All right.
So why wouldn't they be able to lead the charge? I mean, to me, that's a logical fit to have the committee run with it.
Okay. I guess part of what I want to do is make sure that whatever is done fits as well as possible with the operations of town departments. And
well, given that you're on the select board and the committee, that just works perfectly, doesn't it?
So we can blame you either way.
Never credit, always blame.
I mean, I sort of just as philosophically, if someone again, it's not a huge chunk of money, and if the organization did a good job in the past, I'm sort of like, why change horses? That's sort of the way I.
Right. I mean, what they did last time with the RFP, what we'd be doing this time is a feasibility study. So it is different, but I believe they have competency either way.
Okay.
I'm sure they could provide an example feasibility study for another client, right?
That's a good thought. Yeah.
I can reach out and ask for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with the committee. I mean, I feel like that would be the most expedient way to get it going, as long as the committee has enough, capability not capability, but time available.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Quite honestly, it's not that big of a project. It's so I don't think that time will be a major factor.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess the only question in terms of who's going to sign off on the invoice,
right? Yeah, and that either Wayne or Angus should be involved, and I'm guessing that Angus will defer to Wayne. But I don't know
that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very important that they be part of the discussion, because for instance, we need to define what the scope is, and the scope will not be complicated, but we just need to make sure we don't miss something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
So is that what you were looking for? Or?
Yeah, I guess so. I just want to make sure everybody was on board, make sure that there weren't questions. So, I'll reach out to Cadmus and ask if they have an example that they can provide of a feasibility, of sort of a similar work product that's been done in the past.
Yeah.
I'll talk with both Angus and Wayne as well, and determine which of them or both, will be involved.
And so what do you think is the anticipated timeline for the study?
I would hope soon, but seeing as it's the first to talk about it, I can't really guess. I don't think it should take more than a month for them to do it, but I'm kind of speaking out of turn when I say that, because I don't know what else.
So actually, just to get into the weeds a little bit, I'm just sort of curious. So would they, so you've got 3 spots that seem desirable. Are they going to look to see, well, this particular spot is way further away from the connections,
yes,
exactly, and so they're going to throw in those factors.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. That's definitely, that would have to be part of the scope. And it would be reasonable areas to work with, issues related to topography, tree cover,
even like the soil or what I don't know.
Yeah, the soils can be a consideration, because if you're doing ground mounted and also say looking at parking lots, figuring out what would be the best way to work with the parking lot area that's available. And I don't think we can expect them to give us any details regarding structures or anything like that. That's that would be up to somebody who would propose to actually build something, but they could look at the space and understand what it can support and what it would likely to provide, be able to provide, and then interconnection information.
So Rick, do you think there'll be are they gonna come back with one or three choices, or what's the plan?
Well, so at this point, I think we have 6 different, originally it was 5 with the possibility of 1 or 2 others. So now potentially 6 different locations. And what I would expect is that they'll sort of, give the relative strengths and weaknesses of each location.
Okay.
And included in that would be size and capacity. And then we'll have to consider those and determine, is there anything here that we want to try to go forward with, or if there are multiples, how might they be sequenced, and might be things that we thought were viable that we might not want to do for 5 or 10 years, but at least we have them in a plan, we understand where we can go.
Yeah. So will the overlay district / bylaw impact? Would they evaluate?
Well, some of the sites would not be large enough that they would hit thresholds. 250 kilowatt DC is the threshold. Okay. So some of them would not hit that threshold. Others certainly would. But there's some question right now as to the legality or appropriateness of our solar bylaw, and and is it regulating things excessively? So those are questions I guess we'll have to answer farther down the road.
It might be helpful if, as part of the study, they at least identify which ones could be covered under the bylaw.
Okay. Yeah, I think that will be pretty straightforward. When we understand, when they come back with based on this, this is the area, this is the area, this is the potential size. And if it's a less than the threshold in the existing bylaw, then then it's not impacted by the bylaw.
Okay.
Okay. Sure.
It'd be great to get that going.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Item N. Review of proposed changes to fees administered by the town clerk. So what's on the list, Jim? Is that proposed or is that existing?
So everything in the 3 sections, items for purchase, licensing, and vital records, there's no change. That is what we charge currently, and the plan is to continue to charge that for those items.
Okay.
The only changes is under services. It would be commissioners to qualify, which we currently do not have a fee for, because previously we did not have 2 commissioners to qualify in the office. So with Rebecca and myself, we both are commissioners to qualify, so we can swear in justices of the peace, notary of the publics, things like that. So previously it was just not a service that we provided in the clerk's office.
Okay.
Notary services, in the Massachusetts state constitution, it's actually 125 is the maximum we can charge for notary services. So my thought is we do quite a lot of them, and we charge $1. It's a very small fee in comparison. I believe banks charge much higher, which I don't know how legal that is, but they do.
So Jim, when you said 125, $1.25 or $125?
$1.25.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a very simple, easy service that we provide. We have to buy insurance now. It's an additional insurance that we've had to purchase than previously to cover the town if somebody comes in and says, you notarize this, problems with whatever. So I figure it's a good way to try to be able to recoup some of the cost. It's not much, but I mean, since I've gotten here, we've collected, I believe we've collected over $50 worth of notary fees. I just started charging because I legally could. So we do quite a lot of them. And
so why did you charge $1 instead of $1? 25?
I don't-
Because you didn't know if everybody got change or not?
No, because I don't like to give out change, because then I would have to keep a bunch of change in my office, and it's a lot easier just to do $1. I've had zero pushback from anyone coming in saying that's too expensive. And my thought is, if you can't afford $1, then you can write a note, just like if you can't afford anything in the town clerk services, you can write a note saying I am unable to afford this, and I'm asking the clerk to waive the fee. And I can accept that as payment. So if it's a real problem, then you can write the note, but it's $1. Most 99.9% of people who need the notary services are able to provide the $1. And I can take credit cards, so. It's a dollar fee on top. The major change, really major and only change, would be business certificates.
For what?
Business certificates.
Oh.
Currently, we charge $25. We are in the bottom of local towns that charge that fee. It's usually around $40 to $60. We went with 40 because it's $10 per year. It's a 4-year certificate. It's something that you need to do in town to run a business out of your home if you don't have an LLC, essentially. If you don't have register with the state, you usually have to register with the local if you want to have a bank account or things like that. It's a small fee. It's every 4 years. I don't think it's a big ask if you're going to be running your business out of town. And with it being more in line with every other town locally. Mm-hmm. Groveland's the exception. They charge $15.
What are pins?
Sorry, pins? Oh, we have the bicentennial pins.
Oh, okay.
And it says $2 on the little sign in my office. So, I mean, I could give them away. At this point, there's a lot of them. So if you want one, I can go get you one.
And so what is a certified town document?
Certified town document would be anything that my office produces. So a good example is people ask for their voter registration cards, and I can just print that off and give it to them. But when they want, essentially proving that it's from me or the town clerk, we can put the town seal on it with my signature and a true copy attest.
Okay, so like a birth certificate?
No, so birth certificates, marriage, those are all vital records.
Yeah.
It really is just those like oddball things that like the town has to produce as a document. Like I said, the voter registration card is the best example of like the random thing. But it could be any town record, any town document that if someone from the public wants and they want it certified, I can do that service for them. Because if somebody just wants a copy of the minutes, I can give them a copy of the minutes. But if they want it proved that it's a town document from me, then that seal costs them $10.
Yeah. Okay.
Copy of the bylaws, I can email it to anybody for free. But if they want us to print it off, that is the fee that has been set up in the past, and so that's the fee I will continue to charge.
Street listings where do things stand on update?
They're being printed.
Wow.
Ready to go. So we're going to have our 2022 street listing, hopefully in the office before beginning of August.
And do you know when that was last updated? Besides the new cover?
I don't want to speculate.
A while ago.
Yeah, a while.
That'd be good.
Yeah. No, there's been a lot of people who've removed themselves that just have moved out of town, that just moved out of state, haven't updated their records.
Yeah.
There's been quite a lot. So I think after this next round, so if somebody's inactive for 2 years or 4 years, so it's a 2-year election cycle. So every even numbered year, if you don't vote, don't reactivate yourself, don't fill out your census, don't sign any nomination papers. There's a lot of things you don't have to do to stay inactive. And you have to do it for 2 major election cycles. And if that is the case, they will be deleted. There's like 5 people in town who are going to be deleted in December if they don't vote or do anything else in between them. And I've sent out many cards and letters to try to make sure people are active. But the major thing is the major elections. When you vote, you activate yourself. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a lot of people who need to show their IDs. Oh, I think there's about 300 or so that just haven't responded to anything that I've sent them so far.
Be deleted. That sounds like a bad day.
Yeah. But right now it's a very little number because there's very little inactive people who've been active for that long. Yeah. There will be a much bigger number come December of 2024 because that's 2 major election cycles that I've been actively inactivating people. And if anyone who's lucky at home who's gotten those little postcards that I sent out, please do send them back or send in your census so I can make sure you are active. So I would be requesting a vote from the board.
So I would make a motion to approve the updated town clerk fee schedule as noted on item N of tonight's agenda. Discussion. All those in favor?
Actually, I one thing here, licensing marriage intention.
Yes.
I've never heard of that one before.
So we just had one today, in fact. So to get married, you had to fill out paperwork prior to getting married. That is your marriage intention. In the state of Massachusetts, to get married, you file a marriage intention with any local office. Yeah. You wait 3 days, and then you can pick it up. And the person who performs the ceremony for the marriage is the person who signs that document. And then they return it to the local town, and that town in perpetuity is the holder of that record. So we have records going back to the beginning of West Newbury of people who got married not get married in West Newbury, but had their intention filed in West Newbury. So you can go get married in Rockport, or Newburyport, or the golf course in Groveland. But because you filed your intention in West Newbury, that's where the record is held.
So the marriage certificate isn't available until somebody has returned the marriage intention signed.
Correct. Okay. Which doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
So some people technically aren't legally married sometimes.
Yeah.
So because they just assume that they can just have a minister or priest perform the ceremony. Yeah. And if that person forgets to return it, or the JP doesn't return it, or they just have a friend marry them from an online ministry or something like that, doesn't work. I will be blowing one by the bandstand actually, the 27th or something like that. They're getting married in Rhode Island, but they don't want to have to go to Rhode Island to get their marriage record every single time. So their marriage record will be held here. They're getting married 2 days prior, and then they're just going to have the ceremony. Yeah, right.
Interesting.
There's a lot of those things in my office that are interesting. I'll be happy to tell you many stories.
Okay, well, thanks for clarification.
No problem.
All educational.
So I didn't see any minutes in here.
No minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But were they not attached?
Correct.
Oh, sorry about that.
So we can just do this next time.
I will put that on for the next one.
Oh, is she going backwards now? March?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. I swear I did put them in there. I may just not have been attached. There was no vote. I apologize. There was no vote. It was a motion second and then discussion.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Just stick over Jim.
Somebody's got me.
I would say that item O, we can probably delete that for the table that for the moment. Angus has all the updates on that. I know a little bit about it, but I don't want to talk about that.
Just so you know, there's been a lot of research done on that. books and books and books of research. So there's a lot of content regarding that.
You're talking about the no pond all access trail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Rebecca is like, her day job is consumed at least a couple hours by no pond research.
Ah,
so there's a lot.
New Community Preservation Committee eligibility and project application forms. Anything you want to say about that, Wendy?
No, we just tried to streamline them, make them more straightforward. And so these forms will be used going forward for CPA requests.
Great. Next item, just that I did hear back from Angus that everyone is agreeable to what's happening at Pipes Dave after Labor Day. The Riding and Driving Club will have exclusive access to the, I forget which day it is, but one of the days early in September, one of the weekends, and they will have exclusive access to the area until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the flag football jamboree or whatever it is will commence at that point. But everyone seemed to be agreeable that this would be.
So the flag football players will be playing under the nightlights?
Right. So that's good. The Collins Center wage and classification study is pretty much done according to Angus, and we're gonna, I think it's at some point, so there's 40 job descriptions, and so I think we'll divvy them up so that we can, each of us can, look at 10 or whatever. So it's an impossible task to possibly have Angus look at all of them. So we'll, and then comment on anything we think is, but they're not at that point yet, but that's the plan. And so any items to place on future agendas?
Area 1. Only 9:30.
This hasn't happened since I've been on the select board.
I'm just saying, maybe it's Angus.
Oh, that's a low blow. I think it's just a short agenda.
I think it's Archie's excellent chairman.
Well, whatever it is,
we're happy to have it.
So, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Jim.
Night, folks.